Good evening, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. Straight up to our top story. India's wholesale price index has surged to a record high of 15.08% in April from 14.55% in March. Now, the indicator of price rise in wholesale markets has remained in double digits for the 13th consecutive month. In April last year, the wholesale inflation rate was 10.74%. The wholesale price index is the price of a representative basket of wholesale goods. Now, as per the data released by the Centre on the 2nd of May, India's retail inflation has also risen to 7.79% in April 2022, which is an 8-year high. Now, retail inflation has remained above the limit prescribed by the RBI for 4 straight months. Now, the central bank had earlier said that it aims to keep the retail inflation between 2% and 6%. In the meantime, the Indian rupee has touched a fresh all-time low of 77.73 rupees against the US dollar today. However, the rupee also recovered by 7 paise after touching that record low. The rupee had ended at 77.45 rupees per dollar on Friday amidst inflation concerns. Meanwhile, the centre has today announced relaxations to its order banning wheat exports. Now, in a statement, the Ministry of Commerce has said, and I quote, it's been decided that wherever wheat consignments have been handed over to customs for examination and registered into their systems on or prior to May 13th, such consignments would be allowed for export, end quote. Now, following the ban, wheat prices across the world shot up 6%. The centre on Saturday had banned all shipments of wheat with immediate effect. Export of all wheat, including high-protein durum and normal soft bread varieties, were moved from the free to the prohibited category. In other news, now updates coming in from the northeast region. At least 12 people have died in floods and landslides triggered by extremely heavy rainfall in the northeastern regions. Over 2 lakh people in 20 districts have been severely affected due to the floods in Assam, with the hill district of Dima Hasao getting cut off from the rest of the state after landslides. Now, according to NDTV, 7 people have died due to floods in Assam alone. 20 districts and over 600 villages in Assam have been affected as well by the floods. Several trains were cancelled and rescue operations by the NDRF, State Disaster Response Force, fire and emergency services are also underway. Now, the IMD has said that heavy rains are likely to continue in the region for at least the next 4 days. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court today has asked the Varanasi administration where exactly the Shivling was found inside Gyanvapi mosque without impeding the right to Muslims to enter and worship. Now, the Supreme Court was hearing a petition by the mosque committee that sought a direction to the authorities in Varanasi to stop the filming of the mosque complex. The Supreme Court then told the Varanasi district magistrate to ensure the area where the Shivling was found was protected without impeding Muslims from coming to the mosque for namaz. Now, yesterday, after a sensational claim by Hindu petitioners that a Shivling had been found in the pond at Gyanvapi Masjid complex, a local court had then ordered it sealed. Muslim petitioners then rejected the assertion, claiming it was a fountain and not a Shivling. Now, the court will hear the matter again on the 19th of May. Meanwhile, in Karnataka, the Karnataka governor has given his nod to the ordinance on an anti-conversion bill passed in the Karnataka Assembly. Now, the Karnataka Protection of Right to Freedom of Religion bill was tabled and passed in December last year. With this, the ordinance, which contained all the elements of the bill, will now come into effect and is likely to remain effective until the government passes the bill in the Legislative Council during the next legislature session. Now, according to this bill, this is what the bill says, and I quote, "No person shall convert or attempt to convert either directly or otherwise any other person from one religion to another by use of misinterpretation, force, undue influence, coercion, allurement, or by any fraudulent means, or by marriage, nor shall any person abet or conspire for conversions," end quote. Now, for general category, a jail term of 3 to 5 years, and a fine of 25,000 rupees has been proposed in this bill. For the SC/ST and minors, the jail term is 3 to 10 years and a fine of 50,000 rupees. Now, similar laws have been passed in Himachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and Madhya Pradesh. Meanwhile, the centre has opposed the demand for live streaming of court proceedings before the Delhi High Court in the case seeking recognition of same-sex marriages. Now, it said that the matter is neither one of national importance nor does it affect the majority of Indian population. Now, an application had been filed by one of the petitioners in November 2021, asking the court to live stream the proceedings in view of the Supreme Court's direction in the Swapnil Tripathi versus Supreme Court of India case. Now, the centre has said that the applicant is trying to get unnecessary publicity and wants to invite unwanted public attention. Also in the news, the Supreme Court today granted 3 months of interim bail to Jitendra Narayan Tyagi, also known as Wasim Rizvi, one of the accused in the Haridwar Dharma Sansad case. Now, he approached the Supreme Court after the Uttarakhand High Court dismissed his bail plea in March. A bench headed by Justice Ajay Rastogi has also asked Tyagi to refrain from any more inflammatory speeches during this period. Now, the Dharma Sansads were held in Delhi and Haridwar from the 17th of December to 19th of December last year, wherein participants were allegedly instigated against Muslims. On to business news, India's largest insurer, Life Insurance Corporation, has listed its shares on the stock exchanges today. After listing at a discount of over 8% earlier in the day, LIC shares settled at 875.45 rupees on the BSE, down 7.75% from their issue price. On NSE, they ended at 873 rupees, down 8.01%. Moving on to science and technology news right now, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has launched 2 frontline warships, INS Surat and INS Udaygiri, in Mumbai today. Now, the warships were designed by the Directorate of Naval Design and built in Mumbai. Mr. Rajnath Singh said that, and I quote, INS Udaygiri and INS Surat are the shining examples of India's growing indigenous capability, end quote. On to news from across the globe, starting off with Afghanistan right now. Taliban in Afghanistan have dissolved 5 key departments, including the country's Human Rights Commission and the National Security Council, calling them unnecessary. Now, High Council for National Reconciliation has also been dissolved. As Afghanistan faces a budget deficit of 44 billion Afghanis this financial year, Taliban spokesperson has said, and I quote, "These departments were not included in the budget and they have been dissolved," end quote. Meanwhile, an update on what's going on in Sri Lanka. According to Bloomberg, Sri Lanka's new Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that the government plans on privatizing national airline, Sri Lankan Airlines, as part of the reforms aimed at paying off the economic crisis hit country's debts. Now, the carrier lost 45 billion rupees in the year ending March 2021. Mr. Wickremesinghe has said, and I quote, "It should not be that this loss has to be borne by the poorest of the poor who have not set foot in an aircraft," end quote. Now, he also said that he was forced to print money to pay salaries, which will pressure the nation's currency. The country only has 1 day's stock of gasoline. Also, in our positive news section today, we have news coming in from France. France's President Emmanuel Macron has appointed Labour Minister Elisabeth Borne as the country's new Prime Minister, the second time in 30 years that a woman has been appointed to the job. Now, she will be the first woman named as Prime Minister since Edith Cresson briefly occupied the office in the early 1990s. Now, during Borne's tenure as Labour Minister, unemployment fell to its lowest level in 15 years and youth unemployment to its lowest level in 40 years. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching.